one.
Oh, you were recording all that other stuff. Are we live?
What?
Okay, we'd like to open up the January meeting of the Templeton Community Preservation Committee. We will introduce all of our folks who are here, and the first person we'll introduce is Jessica Case, who is our new administrative support person. So she will be taking the minutes for us, and then we'll just go down the line of those who are here. And could you also say who you represent, starting with Candace?
I represent Parks and Recreation Commission.
Yay.
Yeah.
Mike Dixon, Historical Commission.
And that was Candace Graves.
Graves, yeah.
John Henshaw at large.
Dennis Rich, representing the planning board.
Gary Novak at large.
Oh, so Templeton DPW.
And George, you can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. George Andrews Conservation
Okay, thank you,
and
George.
CPC.
Yes, okay, and we also have, in addition to Bob in the audience, we have
David Connor, I'm the director of the Housing Authority here in Temple.
welcome, and thank you all for coming. So we'll get right into the agenda. First item is the minute meeting discussion. Dennis has provided us minutes from the December 8th meeting, which included both the annual needs analysis meeting and a regular meeting of the committee. So everybody has had a chance to look at these. Is there anybody need any more time? Candace?
My name is Belrog,
Oh,
Yeah.
Is it
So,
ACE?
and
ACE.
Yeah,
what is it?
instead of ICE, it's ACE,
Oh.
Candace.
It's the first time it's been wrong.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then there is another,
Is the other one.
she spelled Delt wrong once, but, let's see, where was that? DEALT, it should be. But it's less important than Candace's name. What's that? Oh, and,
I also had a question on number 6 on the regular meeting.
Mhm.
I thought we voted to approve the purchase of Adobe Pro.
yes,
We did approve it.
It said no final decision was made, but I was thinking that we made a decision to approve it.
I thought we voted.
yeah, we did. We can review the tape if you'd like, but that is my recollection as well, is that we did vote. Thank you for catching that, Carrie, to approve it.
I agree with her. We did vote for it.
And was there an expenditure or not?
And I believe it was like $190. But,
Yeah, I don't think we knew the exact amount, but we
it's-
were
Jessica, do you know, that Adobe thing?
Adobe
Yeah.
Pro.
Well, we can just,
I think that's what it was. I think we did like a roundabout. Did like the comp launch stuff within that bracket.
yeah, thank you. Anything else?
I don't see anything.
So we didn't have a figure of the money.
If we just approve, the figure estimated to be in the ballpark of $200 from the
Okay.
administrative budget. We probably did have, anybody want to go back and watch the YouTube?
Oh,
I'm comfortable with,
We can approve them pending, I'll fix the
I'll,
spelling and the,
I'll make that correction. I'll drop it off. for you.
perfect.
Great. Yeah, and then you can spell Baldwinville on number 3
Where?
on the,
oh, yeah.
over
Dennis
here.
is going back to the Baldwinsville.
Well, it can be spelled either way.
Okay.
Actually, as I understand,
Oh,
the old
Joanne's-
way was with the S, the new way, I guess, was without. the S.
Okay, so going forward, I make a motion, we move to the new way with the D.
All right. All right, I'll correct that too. But the
Joanne,
original spelling,
No, F.
the original spelling did have an S in it.
I believe, yeah, Dennis is on the historical
I'm not sure it's a,
society, so
no way.
that's one of the new shirts.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Joanne has joined us.
Oh, great. And we'd also like to welcome Joanne Burden, an at-large member who has now joined us on Zoom. Hello, Joanne.
Hello.
Okay, so we're just reviewing the minutes from the December meeting. It was noted that both you and George weren't at that meeting, so you don't need to vote on these minutes anyway. Because we weren't
Okay.
able to, we didn't get the minutes to you in advance to review. But if you want to read them, here they are.
Okay.
They'll be posted.
And Joanne, we also introduced Jessica Case, who is our admin person. She's, I don't know if you can even see her.
No,
Okay, well, trust us, she's here. Anyway, so she's the person that is filling the 8 hours of her time per week, is supporting this committee.
wonderful.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. You're breaking up, Joanne. Can you shut off your camera? Thank you.
I'll be able to communicate better with that off.
Can you still hear us?
Yes.
Okay. All right. If we're ignoring you, just shout out. Okay, so any other discussion on the minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to accept with the changes.
Motion's been made to approve with the changes as noted
Second.
and seconded, and now we need to do a roll call vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Candace?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
John, yes.
Yes,
Dennis?
Yes,
Carrie?
That's it.
And you guys are abstaining?
Abstain.
Joanne?
Abstain.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are approved. Okay, next item is a town meeting update. As everybody knows, our annual town meeting is in May, but we need to get our warrant into the select board. And we really need to vote our articles next month, February. There will once again be the general appropriation article. And we have some things to talk about tonight. The process requires that any expenditure of any projects that are within town also need to go to capital planning, who typically meet in November, but they will typically have a meeting again so that they can be informed of this. It's not for their approval, but just the bylaw indicates they should be informed. They must be. Because this is not the town's budget. This is the CPA funds, but that's part of the process. Okay.
That's why I went.
And did you go to the?
Yes, I was there for the tennis court.
Okay, so that's already been addressed. I'm sorry
Yeah.
for the tennis court. Anything else? Anybody want to talk about town meeting? No? Okay. The next item is CPC Finances.
Mommy's
Um,
on a meeting, honey.
Can you wait a few minutes? Okay, can you wait a few minutes?
Yeah, Dan, if you want to mute, you can. Okay. Yeah, onto the CPC Finances, we did get an invoice from the Community Preservation Coalition either yesterday or the day before. This is our annual expenditure to remain a member of that organization, which is the gatekeeper of all the projects and the information. And annually, we have been paying $875 to be members of that. And that's based upon what our, how big our town is, basically. So the cities and towns that get more money have higher. We're down towards the lower end of $875 annually. And I think that it's been a great investment for us because they're a good resource. So do we want to stay in?
yes.
Okay,
yeah.
So would you have to make a motion for that? I make a motion, we stay in.
okay, make a motion to
that
expend
amount?
$875 for
Yep.
the administrative
I'll
budget.
second it.
Seconded by George. All those in favor, we'll start in with Candace,
I'll say yes.
Mike,
Yes.
John, yes,
Yes,
Carrie,
Yes,
George,
Yes,
Joanne,
Yes.
thank you. Unanimous, and I forgot to ask if there's any more discussion, but since it was unanimous. I don't think we
I
need-
think he emailed everybody, didn't he?
Yeah, I
Right?
think we did.
I got an
You got it too. He wanted to make sure he
Yeah.
sent anybody whose email they have. So continuing along with the finances, we have been getting some invoices related to the Grange Hall, that new allocation of funds that was approved in November. They've begun some of the work. We have already We had a warrant last week of $6,400, $6,427. We got another bill, I think today. That was $996.27 for some electrical work. So that project is ongoing. We had a tour of that thing last fall and they're going gangbusters now for that. So that's just an FYI. Other things that have occurred, there is amongst our past projects, we had approved 17,000, or the town approved $17,500 for affordable housing. And that is really to investigate what options the town would have for securing a more affordable housing within the town, for looking at legal review and consultation. And that was originally driven by the Day Mill townhouses that have some affordable units that convert to market rate if they're not purchased as affordable, if the affordable restriction is not retained. And so I know the town manager, town administrator, Adam, has had a meeting on that. Jessica, did you sit in on
I
that?
was present, yeah.
And so we'll wait to get an update from that, but he's sorry, that was with a legal.
I have a little bit of an update on that.
Okay,
So the funds were there to create a housing trust. This is not similar to the Templeton Housing Authority, which is from the state. This housing trust would create housing and protect housing. And the legal fees associated would be to help create the document of that trust and any associated legal fees.
is that what the lawyers told you?
It
Yeah.
also could potentially create a housing trust board of 5 to 7 members if wanted.
Right, so this is, so the meat of the article is really to evaluate, and we have had discussion of a housing trust. And it's something that had been brought up over time as a way, and many communities are in a similar situation where they're receiving, the annual allocation and unable to expend it on affordable housing. What Templeton has done is, years ago, we purchased a generator, backup generator for the housing authority in support of housing. Some communities do wholesale build and create affordable housing. Obviously, everybody that's following this knows that the town have committed to the Baldwinville Elementary School project. That is going forward. A letter of support was sent and discussed and sent to the advocates for that. So we have things going forward, but we don't really have a clean vehicle to create and to protect affordable housing. And that's why we want to explore what the options are. And it may be something that could be a regional housing trust. It is different than the housing authority, which is a state entity. But we just need to learn more about what our options are before we could do anything, because it would take, volunteer commitments once again, because, we'll have small money to do big things, but it would be a place where the annual appropriation for the affordable housing component could go to the trust, and then the trust could expend it as appropriate. So we'll learn more. We'll get a report back. This is just the initial discussion.
One of the questions when we first discussed this was the fact that who would assume responsibility for compliance with CPC funding under such a program of that nature. And I don't know if we ever got an answer to that question.
Yeah, and that's why we're still in the exploratory phase. Clearly, so an affordable housing trust that would be created, any monies that came from CPA would need to be compliant with the CPA rules and regs. And so it would have to be, legal language. That may not be the only source of funding for that housing trust. It could be charitable donations and things like that or whatnot, but certainly those things would need to be addressed. We're a long way from even going forward. Now, we do have today, Mr. Connor from the Housing Authority. Are you familiar with affordable housing trusts at all?
Not really. I haven't dealt with them before. We don't have it in Winchendon either. I'm also the executive director of the Winchendon Housing Authority. And we are trying to look at building, getting CPC money in Winchton that we were talking about bringing it to town meeting this year. I haven't done any affordable housing trust either in either community. But I can say that I know the housing authority with the new governor, there's been talk about talking and reaching out to housing authorities that might have open space. At looking at possibly developing future housing. So there's some positives coming out of that. I know the Templeton Housing Authority, as far as I know, doesn't have any open space, but maybe the community might. Working with the housing authority, that could be an opportunity to develop more permanent affordable housing.
And that's one thing to note is that the community preservation funding can be taken from different buckets, if you will. So open space could be purchased under the open space, mandate, affordable housing created and supported with CPA funds, and those funds also leveraged for state monies to make it all happen. So we're very pleased that we have you here to kind of talk these things through. We had Ida Bean and who served as a representative on this board for a long time. Prior to that, Joyce Grukin was there for many, many years on the seat of the CPA, because that's one of the required seats for the CPC committee. So we really would love to see if the townspeople, I know there's even, I believe, a vacant seat on the housing authority.
Correct, there is. The governor appointments position has been open for a few years now, and I've been working since I took over last October, a year ago, October, actually. To try to find somebody in the community that'd be interested in sitting on the housing authority board. And that could be a person that could sit on both if possible.
Yeah, so once somebody is on that board, then that board can then appoint them to be the representative to this committee, which is a single monthly meeting. Typically, it could be more, but generally it's once a month, and is to the job of the housing authority representative is to represent the affordable housing community, but also to participate in the general discussion of CPA projects going forward. Our job is to try to help people pull together projects and make them viable and see if they fit the mission, and then send them forward to the town peoples for approval. Now, on the housing authority, what would the duties be?
For the board member,
Yeah,
they meet monthly to talk about policies, procedures, changes in the housing authority staffing or anything like that. The director reports to that 5-member board.
and so that there is one government appointee, and is there a requirement of that other than living in Templeton?
A representative from the community. It has to be somebody living in the community.
And so if somebody did have interest, they would reach out to the Templeton Housing Authority and indicate interest?
Correct. They could come to me, and actually it would be an appointment as simple as initially through the select board here in the town. And then we would then bring it to the governor for a final appointment. That's a process that has to go through. It just takes a lot of time, but it's fairly simple to do. Yeah, they could just reach out to the housing authority, and I could help them through the process.
And perhaps they could come to one of your meetings just to see what it was like to,
The Templeton board meets once a month on Fridays, the second Friday at 11 o'clock at 99 Bridge Street at the community building of the Templeton Housing Authority.
So that's a great way to serve the community. And as we all know, we all need housing, and, we all can't afford the new ones. Okay, well, thank you. I'm just kind of going through the discussion on the finances. And so I mentioned that the Grange Hall project's been going forward. We haven't seen anything of late from Scout Hall. Bob, is anything?
The select board member requested a report for the next select board meeting. I know it went out to bid for de-letting of the paint. The bid was awarded, but I believe the contractor will wait for a certificate that he has to have from the state, which should be behind on what needs out. Once we get the certificate from him, we can start the project.
And how much was the bid? Ballparking. Yeah, if you could send that to Jessica, and so we would all know, because we want to anticipate what the expenditure will be.
So right now the hang up is waiting for this guy to get the certificate from the state.
Okay, yeah, because we still have a balance in that project of $45,383 for CPA funds, and I don't know if the selectmen have allocated anything else. I wouldn't expect,
Well,
so.
once this is done, we're gonna reapproach money to see if they come back and start doing the rest of the work.
Okay, great, thank you. Is there, okay, so any other financial info, anybody?
I quickly looked at the town website and the opening on the housing authority is posted at the town. It's right here, housing authority vacant governance
Okay,
appointment.
Great,
So it is
people can
posted.
find that
Yeah.
and,
We
Yeah, and
gotta-
then
We
you-
gotta, oh.
Go ahead.
You said anything else? Are you talking about funds?
but we'll get to the
Okay.
future projects.
Well, this was the one that it just got a bid.
Oh, okay, great, I'm
It's a
sorry.
Gilman Waite. They accepted the bid last night for the first stage of that project.
Great, and do you happen to remember how much it was?
No,
Okay, so we have $40,000 in the Gilman Way project. That's to wrap up the public bathrooms and a few other miscellaneous items. And so glad to hear that's moving forward.
yeah, that's the walls, the ceilings and the flooring. That was the first stage. Then there'll be like a plumbing stage and then it'll be the electric
We're
stage.
also doing some work on the concession side. We'll be starting that first early this next week. And, this contractor that we've been using, he was a single bidder when it went out to bid. He's been doing a lot of work in all the buildings. And we went out to bid because we didn't wanna show any favoritism or anything. We wanted to do everything.
Yeah, we got to do the 30B.
So I believe that was, I wanna say 8,000, give or take. I would have to look at my note.
So what I would like to request is as you get bids, estimates, et cetera, for any of the CPA related expenditures, please send them to Jessica, because now we have somebody that can actually keep track of stuff.
Okay,
And so then we'll know when we see an invoice come in, we'll know it's coming, not that,
right.
we need to know, but I like to know things sooner than later. So
Okay.
thank you. And I know that that'll be great if that project gets done by, springish.
Right.
Okay, any other ongoing projects? That kind of fits in this whole current projects, item number 4. I took it from the money side, but we'll move on then.
I have one question.
Yep.
Do you know what the status is on the emergency management building in Baldwin?
We'll have to talk to Adam about that. I know that, has there ever been, Bob, do you know any discussion? There's $9,000 approved for a study of the,
Yeah, I know, he just mentioned it the other day that they're gonna be moving forward. He's gonna kind of tie in some projects with the senior center as well, with the architect and so that'll start moving shortly on study.
good, yeah. So the goal there is to kind of, figure out what is the scope that needs to happen so that we can go forward with a full-blown project to rehabilitate, restore the Baldwinville Fire Station back to its, historic look, but also to make it more, less drafty and more usable for the Templeton Emergency Management folks.
But the monies won't make it into this annual town meeting.
Not unless they finish that by next month. So, yeah, so we would be looking at probably the fall special. Unless there is a special within the annual that has a later warrant that used to happen, doesn't seem to happen anymore.
Right.
But at least, yeah, so,
Yeah, I think it's at the architect. There's like a backlog.
okay, so, forward progress is always good. It's never, it's not always as quick as we would like it to be.
Mm.
Okay, any other projects anybody want to bring up or? Okay, so for potential projects, at the meeting last month, we spoke about, Candace brought up the Gilman Waite tennis court, and then she asked Bob to help out to get some pricing on that. Do you guys want to tell us where you're at?
So, Canvas, went over some of the last meeting, but tennis courts, you need a specialty vendor to do the paving, as they use a much finer mix, for court surfacing. So I reached out to New England Seal Coating Inc. They specialize in the special paving stuff. The current courts are, there's large cracking and there's thousands of small cracks. They can put a membrane over it and resurface it, but he doesn't recommend it. So it'll be a total reclaim. Regrade, the drainage is finer, it's all sand and gravel underneath. Putting the pavement down, 2 coats of paint. Marking out for tennis and pickleball. Ready to play at 81,844. But that's only. That's today's price, it's already expired, it's 15 days. So if it does go through, you definitely want to leave 6 to 10% increase in materials, that's all. It's just ridiculous on materials tonight. And that was really all said and done. I have the department will remove the old fencing and allow them to get in there and do what they have to do. We do their thing, and then, you know, we got it all, so now. And that's all courts, you know, like, total 31,700.
For the fencing?
Yeah. That's a smaller chain link. Regular chain link fence is 2 inches, is the inch and 3/4, I believe. The reason for that is because when you're playing tennis or pickleball, the balls get stuck in the 2-inch squares like that.
You've done your research on the pickleball, yeah.
So that would set that court, those courts and longevity use for a long time.
This allows for the use of both,
Yeah.
two different courts or,
There's no, it's one big area, 1,152 square yards of playing area, but there's gonna be 2 courts. And
okay, that's,
if you can set both of them up for tennis, they're gonna put the sleeves in for us. If you have a tournament or something, you can use them both as tennis, or you can use them, switch them out, and you can use them both as pickleball.
okay.
And in the markings, they move the markings up for pickleball, this is the short course. So you just play within the boundaries of whatever you're wanting to do.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, this,
Prefer it.
because we had talked about, you know, okay, so this is looking at somewhere around 120,000 or something like that. Yeah, and we always, you know we need to build contingency and we know prices can go up. You'll have to go out for bid. We had originally spoken about well, should we even explore, you know, how big we could do? I think probably we might be wise to just get this up to snuff and make sure it's, you know. This would be 2 courts. I drove up there. It looks like you could expand in the future if it
If
was.
you wanted to, in defense quote, you might be able to knock that down a little bit, but that was also repairing the 4-foot section that's abutted to it. And I added in another man gate for access to it, and it makes sense where they have the current one. And the back lot's over here, but the gate's over here. So,
Yeah.
Now, is that parking lot the way it's gonna be? Is that?
yeah, I spoke to Cameras last night. We have some kids up there tearing it up. They're on a snowstorm, doing donuts and stuff. It's gonna be regrind. I paid that, and we're talking some big money. I can't use chapter 90 money in parking lots.
Yeah.
So the regrind, it works out good until we have events like this. We had 2 of them this past week. So I talked to Cameras about possibly blocking the big parking lot off. Because we have the emergency gate off of Michael's around the corner. And if it's one of us have to get in, that will be plowed and maintained, we have to unlock the gate. And if somebody wants to use a playground, you get the smaller platform, which is more than sufficient enough for the winter time.
Yeah, it's way too dangerous to do what they were doing in there.
He was hanging out of the car and.
Yeah.
I caught the first one, so he will be doing some community servicing this spring.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's, is
It's
there,
best to. There's no reason to be back there during the winter. There's absolutely no reason.
so do you think a gate would be?
You could put a gate, that's another lock, it's not a chain, I'd rather just put 2 cement barriers over there. Kick them
Okay,
off to
just
the
close
side.
them,
Just
yeah.
temporarily for the winter. We're not gonna be in it
Yeah,
anyway.
just Kick them off to the side and come fall. When we're done using the park, just put them back.
So the thing to remember is that improvements to, the whole property could be incorporated into a CPA request. Especially if it's a priority expense. I mean, that's why fixing any fence that's in the vicinity, like the playground fence or anything like that.
There's more fencing that can be fixed, but like before, when we were talking about doing something, I think the phases. They're probably got a way to go, we're gonna have a concession stand. In full blossom this spring. If this goes through, this will be a huge hit. Especially if you can't believe how. Popular this pickleball thing, and I just think it's gonna draw a lot of people.
Tennis court, you're starting to see a lot more commercials for tennis coming back up again. They must be having some serious good players coming up. Cause there's some interest in that. If you watch commercials, you'll see a lot more tennis showing up. That usually indicates there's things going on.
Now, do you think that so would it be open or would it be reservations or how do you guys envision?
For the
control
court?
The court, yeah.
I mean, I think it'll be fine. I mean, the damage of the court wasn't because of people. It was just age. It's
Yeah.
very old. And obviously it had a netting at one point, but it was probably never stored away or whatever reason why the netting is gone. But now we're going to get another Conex, so we'll be able to take that netting down during the winter season when, we'll close off that area so that it should be fine. But I mean, that's something they can discuss too, the rest of the parks commissioners, if they want to do something like that. But if it was CPC, it'd have to be open to the public generally anyway to do the funds. I think I don't think you can lock it up.
Well, you certainly, it is for the public use. We're not charging the public for
Right,
it, but
yeah.
if it's in our best interest to limit access for one reason or another, I mean, those are things that you can
Right.
work
Yeah, the
through.
parks.
Right, yeah.
The need for it, they would do it to protect it. But if it has to be open completely, I mean, I know what they'll say in order to get funding to fix this, to fix it, because it's horrendous. They would say, yeah, we'll just have to do better, visual of keeping it, picked up like anything else in the park.
And
I mean, the swing sets and stuff, I mean, I think that I can't even believe how really good shape, I mean, I've rocked them and moved them and I thought, they're pretty old. I mean, it's coming up on a few years now and they're in pretty good shape compared to, other parks I've seen that are in the same age bracket in the local communities.
I know, now, do you have a spotlight there? Is there like a street light?
Yeah, the lighting for the basketball hits in that area. I think it covers most of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, but those are on a timer and they get shut off. Because most of the open space in town is invested on.
Yeah, I was just, wondering if there was power there. I mean, you could even have cameras if you felt like.
Well, yeah, they did talk about trying to get cameras there before, but there's no Wi-Fi over there. That would be added on to the budget.
Yeah, future phase, right?
Yeah.
We talked about this for a couple of years ago, putting cameras over there and all this stuff, so.
One step at a time, I guess.
Maybe, this whole Wi-Fi broadband thing, get better Wi-Fi up there or somewhere. I mean, the concession stand, once that opens, but.
It did have Wi-Fi at one point. It was on the budget for a rec. You could see it was listed like $1,000, whatever they were paying a small, whatever to keep Wi-Fi up there. It was, I seen it in an older, so at one point I don't know where they had it, how they had it hooked up, but they were paying some kind of Verizon service at one point. It was on one of their budgets, the rec department, a few years back. I don't know why. Or maybe it was anticipation, maybe they never used it, I don't know. I couldn't find any records. Yeah.
Okay,
it
so
was
that all
something.
predated.
Yeah,
Do you guys have any questions or comments?
It would be the Parks Department responsibility to take down the netting and
yeah, it would be part of, it would be part of Parks and Rec, it would be part of, part of the procedures, like when they shut down the bathrooms and the water, it'd be all part of that same time frame. It probably would be taken down, I would assume, right? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, and that concession stand you'll be rolling in dough. You can actually hire somebody to do some work.
yeah, well, we still got that ad out there, still waiting for somebody to come forward to be our concession stand coordinator.
Somebody will do it, want to do it. Okay, well, what we will do is, we'll pull this together. What is the general consensus here? Does anybody? I mean, we're not, I wasn't ready to make a formal vote for a motion on it tonight. We wanted to get some preliminary info. We'll need to really, nail down the numbers, putting it, we always put at least a 10% contingency in. And given, the price of everything, because it's easier to give money back than it is to ask for more.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
you have a comment on YouTube.
Okay.
Question, if you would care to field it, from Amanda Susie Simmons. What would the ongoing maintenance costs look like? And where would that money come from?
For the tennis court, you mean?
I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Okay, well, once the tennis court is revamped, I mean, the maintenance isn't gonna be that high. It's just like the basketball court next to it and the swing sets next to it. I mean, right now we're becoming Parks and Rec, so we're still looking at all of we're being told what it all, like mowing the lawn and all that stuff. But the actual, the maintenance for that, once it's done, as long as you take care of it, is minimum. I mean, it's just making sure that the net is your biggest thing, making sure it's stored properly.
And that breaks down, that's minimal, that would come out of their budget.
Yeah, I mean, most of the
Keep an
stuff,
eye on it, it's a way of a pavement. Or painting, you might have to, you wanna definitely catch it, and reseal it and paint it maybe 8-10 years, I don't know how long it's gonna last, but yeah, at some point there will be some maintenance, but was netting and minimal maintenance, somebody puts paneling fence and that's all unpredictable stuff.
yeah.
yeah, so it's a good thing to think about. It certainly is something that,
I mean, the fence we have right now has been up for, I believe that what was it, in maybe. It's
been a long time.
Yeah. It's
And
rusted,
so,
yeah.
if this were put on the warrant, it would be voted in May. And then the project would go forward, and who knows when it would actually be done, maybe by fall, maybe not. So you would have some time as you develop your budget for maintaining,
Right.
programs
Yeah.
and things like that. You could put a small amount in and move money if you had to.
Yeah.
And then find out what the true cost is after you've been there, but I agree that
But
it
not
wouldn't
really,
be
yeah.
huge.
Yeah, the rec commission is not very concerned about, we're like, that's minimum compared to some of this. Having a fence that's, wiggle, the way in the condition is, having that court the way it is. And that to us is more present. We don't want little kids walking in there and tripping on over those cracks. If we're gonna have tournaments in there for the softball season, we're trying to get those back. Then they could go in there and then, that court is in bad shape and it will cost the town more money in the long run. Even to get a temporary or whatever to keep anybody out of it, just costs you money in the long run. You ever see those projects where they get the fencing, you gotta put the fencing around the fencing to keep people out of the fencing, it's like,
So far as maintenance, they can do an overall budget item on their budget for repairs as needed, doing away for whether it's concession stand, the playground, courts.
Yeah.
It's all gonna be minor, so if they have $3,000 for maintenance, to start out with and see if.
See where the costs are and then adjust annually. And then if like the vendor says, okay, this is a 10-year coding, after 10 years, you need to do this, well, then you could amortize that out or, figure out how you're gonna pay for that. because clearly, the CPA funds are available if the townspeople voted to do the work, but then the ongoing maintenance is.
It's on our
is
responsibility.
on-
We
yeah.
understand that. We get that.
Okay, great. Anybody else have anything to say or ask about this? And we'll maybe we'll communicate with you and come up with a final bottom line number in the language of what we might want, and then bring it forward and see if the committee wants to put it forward at our next meeting.
Mhm.
Does that sound
That
reasonable?
sounds good.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate all your good work, Bob. Me and Candace. I know Bob does all the heavy lifting of getting the pricing. All right, any other potential projects that we wish to discuss? With anything pending? We really haven't, and I was glad to hear that you guys have gone through capital planning on this.
Yep. They
Um,
made sure I ran down there. They got me a slot.
So as Bob mentioned, there has been some discussion, I think I mentioned it last time, with the Cemetery Commission about a potential project for Baptist Common Cemetery, which could be as simple as getting a sign, or it could be something that would include, if there's any work that needs to be done out there, repointing a stone, pushing the stones back up or something. I mean, it's just an old cemetery. The town maintains it. George is very familiar with it. But
Look at
there
it
has
every day.
right up the window. So there, and we do have a local landowner that's indicated that a sign could be, put temporarily on, near, it would be on town land, but he allows access to the property on his land. Because it's kind of landlocked, right? Unless you come through the woods across the swamp. So that may be, I'm gonna have an individual discussion with the cemetery. They weren't ready to talk about it. And then we'll bring it back to our meeting next month, likely.
Yeah. I think, wasn't he going to come to the meeting?
He had talked about coming to the meeting, but his schedule wasn't good this week.
Okay.
So we'll probably get together next week.
Oh,
Will they be able to get like any numbers or anything on a sign? Or is that too
Yeah.
early in their process?
Well,
Before our
they
next meeting?
they got that nice sign up there in Templeton Center, the Cadillac sign. And that's beautiful. And
Right.
then, that was $2,500, I believe. There's also the North County Land Trust Property Dwelling Conservation Area. As part of their ongoing project, and I forgot to mention this, they are getting a sign. Actually, Bob has it now, I believe. And so he's offered to have his guys put it in if the ground's available or whatever. And so that was I haven't seen the final bill on that, but I know it was less than that.
Yeah, I didn't get the bill, so.
Yeah, so that's part of the ongoing project that they already
I
had the
just didn't
money
know if there would
for.
be something we'd be able to put on, if they give it to us and we decide to, whatever, it'd be able to make it for.
Yes,
May. I mean,
yes,
That'd be
that's
nice
the
if they
goal.
could do that.
And the question that I have is like, okay, do you want just a sign or they could even maybe want to put on, there could be a sign by the road, but they could also put like a historical marker or other things as well.
I really suggest that we get the land issue squared away before we start doing too much up there. I mean, right now you have a verbal okay to cross that property to get into the cemetery. You have no legal right of way. You're gonna start putting up signage on what? On the abutment area off the side of the road that belongs to the town? Or are we gonna go out into the private land? We need the land issue squared away before we invest any money up there.
So yeah, they would have to do what the owner would have to grant a right away.
We've already had this.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
There's something else I'd like to do or talk about before they get too far involved in that. There used to be a wire fence between my land and the cemetery. That was torn down years ago. I would like to see some type of it, maybe small wooden fence on the boundary line so that people don't keep going from in and out of my property besides stuff like that there. See if something could be some kind of a small, I don't care if it's 2 feet high or whatever, just so people know that property that they stop in and out on isn't, all belonging to a cemetery.
Thank you, George. That's the kind of things we want to hear. And also what Mike has said is not lost on us. And I don't believe, and you were about to say that you've had some of the preliminary discussion, and the landowner, at least my understanding was less.
He was not interested in making a permanent grant.
Right, absolutely, he was not.
Is there any more land up there than just what that little square lot is, or
Like that side of the DPW through a swamp, like John was saying.
it's, so there's no chance for expansion of grave sites?
No, that's all.
Also,
That's just a
that's
historic.
Capacity and
all right,
no action happening.
And I understand the original cemetery plot comes in out of the highway department area. If that's how it is, the real reason, the real area to get into is to go clear that out and redo that, but that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, because it is that big pond
you know,
impoundment.
Yeah.
Put up a footbridge and.
Nice arching bridge, sure.
One,
Stick tour of the salt bin and then go over to the cemetery.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so.
And I don't think it's this
A few
commission,
areas.
Yes,
it's not this commission's responsibility to square away that property issue either. It's really
Right.
the cemetery and parks.
so the only way they can get in is to this other person's property. And
Or
then
go down through
Town
mine.
never- And it was it's a town cemetery, and there was,
Well, keep in mind,
No.
that was Baptist Church Cemetery.
okay,
The Baptist Church used to be an empty lot that's on the corner of that road.
right.
They got moved to Ballinville and now it's a Dunkin' Donuts. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, that's the long issue.
But,
So that, yeah,
but nobody put a right of way into the cemetery when they sold or gave or that person's land was there. Whenever that person acquired the land or always had the land. That's crazy.
Right, I mean, we
Well,
could
it was
read
a
the
long
deed
time ago,
to
too.
see, we may be some unknown thing,
again,
but.
it's not this
Getting
board's
sense.
responsibility.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I'll bring that up to.
Yeah,
to the
that's their-
cemetery
That's
commissioner.
their gig, the commissioner on that end.
And then because alternatively, yeah, okay.
is there any way of having somebody trace back the records to see if there's any way that can be?
Well, I think like Mike is saying, that's the cemetery's.
That would be their job to trace it and look for it and
But,
find out who to
you know,
do it, yeah.
you never know what you find, but you know, the history has been the last 100 years or more.
Mhm.
It just doesn't make any sense. How do you have a cemetery regardless of who owned the properties? There had to have been a way to get in and it had to have been owned by the owner of the cemetery.
Well, which was the church, and then how the church property transferred, we don't know.
Yeah.
Those deeds are there if somebody wants to do the research.
Which would
But we
be
don't need to.
it would be the cemetery commission's job.
Yeah, so let's, we'll see what we can find out and I'll report back anything I find at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Anything else anybody have in mind for a current or a potential project for next year? You know, at our needs analysis meeting, we only talked about the.
Well, I think at the last meeting, I had brought up the need for housing in the town, and I assume that's why he's here tonight.
Yeah,
Are we going to be discussing how we might be able to assist with that tonight, or?
well, this was, I've been meaning to sit down directly. I've been pretty busy these days, so I haven't had a direct sit down with David. But I did have a chance to express to him that, you know, annually, 10% of our annual CPA budget is allocated for affordable housing. So if there are things, but they, you know, they really want creation of housing. And so that's, you know, we are at about $400,000 a year. So $40,000 that we could earmark, which, you know, what can you get for 40,000? Not a whole lot these days in terms of real estate. But if it could support, leverage other efforts, you know, those types of things,
Well, understanding that we don't sponsor any projects, that people come to us with projects and we decide whether we can help them or not, right? So do you have any projects in the works right now that we might be able to help you with?
Well, I know in Templeton, we were just awarded just under $400,000 to work on the Tucker building. from DHCD to put in second means of egress for the third and fourth floor of the building and to sprinkle the whole building. It's been something that's been talked about by the Housing Authority Board for many years.
Sure.
So I pushed back and the state was able to award us some emergency funding. I believe we got awarded, I think it was January of 22.
Wow.
And now I've got an architect on board and they're working on starting to do the preliminary drawings. But I had mentioned earlier before the meeting that there is some other work that building needs to, as again, if you're not familiar with it, it has 8 units of family housing. They're 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units, a total of 8 units. And it's a good building, good solid building, but it needs some attention. And it's more than maintenance. But we're getting the state to give us that $400,000 in emergency funds. But I had mentioned that there's some window repairs where it being an older building, I don't want to say it's on a historical register, but it's definitely a historical building.
It's in the Baldwinville Historic District.
Yes,
Yes,
that's what I understand.
yes.
But
So
it's
Mike
not-
knows that kind of.
Oh, thank you. Probably get all the. So what we're looking at doing is, again, trying to keep the building, make the building more efficient
Yes,
by improving some of the windows without changing the look of the building.
right.
Trying to put modern windows in. So
I
that's a
kind of
project-
overheard that discussion that you were having.
That's a
So
project.
let
that
me-
we're thinking.
Let me tell you that right now, there are no zoning bylaws concerning historical districts in the town of Templeton. So you are free to use your own best judgment as far as window replacement on that building. Obviously, it would be much better that you choose a style. If you're working with an architect now, perhaps he could recommend something that would be fitting of that time period. You know, you don't want to go off and change the window look 100%. So you're on the right path. You want to keep it, you want something that's efficient and you want something that blends in with the design of the building and the historic nature of that area. And there is no zoning controls on that building as far as historical zoning. Okay, so you use your best judgment. Historical Commission can help you with that if you need. You have an architect working on another project.
Yeah, I can't use them to do the windows. I can only use them for what I've got.
Yeah, buy him a cup of coffee.
Thinking forward,
Yeah.
that could be a project that maybe I could look at phasing. Is possibly getting some money from your board here
Yes,
to help fund like preliminary drawings, to look at conceptuals, to be able to put something together. That the housing authority doesn't have free
Mhm.
funds like that to do, so that could be something we could apply to. Again, we want to keep the look of the building, we want to make the windows more efficient, but we also have to make them functional for the
Mhm.
residents that are there. One of the biggest issue now is they've updated some of the windows and parts of the other parts of the 3 sides of the building. They haven't touched the front facade yet because of its look.
Yeah.
But the windows are huge
Mhm.
and the residents can't open them because they're so heavy. So we have to look at being creative and keep the size of the window, but make the actual opening of the window much more functional to a standard size window. So that's what I'm looking at doing. But again, what we're gonna need to do is try to see if we can bring somebody in that can design a window, like that has worked with them, an architect that can say, this is how you want to make it look. So the exterior stays the same.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing this up, Mike. And because one thing that you could do with your architect is you could ask them, what would be a ballpark estimate of a cost to hire an architect like you to come in and this is what we would want? And he could at least say to you, that would be an $8,000 job, that'd be a $15,000 job. That doesn't mean he would get the job. Obviously, we have to go through the procurement process, but we could at least, that's because we've tried this before where we try to, okay, let's do the engineering and how much is the whole project going to cost? Well, you don't know chicken and egg thing. So if you could do it in a phase approach, then you're making progress and it's realistic that, okay, then you hire somebody and then they say, okay, it's going to cost $60,000 to do it. Well, that's the next project. So if that is something that your board, et cetera, wanted to entertain and you had something that you could put together in a timely manner to come up with an estimate, we could conceivably bring it to our February meeting for discussion of a vote. And it would be, essentially, we are requesting X number of dollars to engage the services of a historical architectural consultant or whatever the language might be to evaluate, the opportunities to, upgrade the windows while maintaining the historic nature of the building. And we have an application process. It's still, we're working towards having an online application thing, but getting the information to us is the key part of it. And then we can discuss it or you could be doing it in the future. But if you wanted to start that first step, now is the time to do it and at least to come up with and if your guy's coming out anyway, if the firm is coming out, they could probably at least envelope it for you. And then you could, come back and we would say, okay, we'll add 10% or whatever, because we don't know what the bid price will be. You have Jessica's contact info. She shares with us all the info and we can, if that's something you want to do.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that is something I'd like to do. I would love to work with your committee here to try to improve that building. One is for the structural, keeping it sound, because that's the most important part right now, keeping the historical look, but maintaining it for years to come, because it's needed housing in this community. And if we could develop more, we would. And, I think that partnership, building that will help us. Doing this project is a good start, and there's other things we can look at. Like I said, there's talk about with this new governor possibly developing some more housing, if we can come up with some open space, or even if it's an old blighted building, I know there's a few buildings in the Baldenville area that have seen fires and other things that I don't know what's going on with them, but I drive by them quite often, and I think, that could be developed into something at a later date.
Well, one question that I would have is the old institutional buildings at the Templeton Developmental Center that are now vacant. Now, maybe there's issues related to, the folks that are living over there and the housing or whatever, and then utilities have always been an issue up there, but any of those things, we're more than happy to talk about. That's part of our mission, is to support your effort. The important thing to remember of any project, it's about the historic preservation, which can include rehabilitation for other use, as opposed to, you're making a TP. So thank you so much for coming, and we can maybe even sit down next week to meet if you have time.
In Florida.
Okay, that's right. Where are you going, Miami or?
He probably
I'm down
really
in
wants to meet with you.
So anytime after that, but we can bounce emails and set up a time and we can put together. I look forward to working with all of you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, how does the development at the old Templeton High School and the one on Baldwinsville Road add to our numbers of available units of
You're talking about the new development behind Tucker?
the high
Yeah.
school?
The
Yeah,
high
The
school,
old high
right,
school.
was elementary, I guess.
well,
Tucker was high school.
it
once.
was the high
Back a
school.
couple years.
My day, it was a high school.
I've talked to the developers as well. The housing authority has sent a letter of support for that development, because it's 54 units in Highland. And I've seen the conceptuals and I've gone over it all. I think it's gonna be a huge asset to the community. And from what I understand, 46 or 48 of the units are gonna be permanently affordable.
Yeah, 90%, I believe.
Yeah, and that's 60% or less of the area median income. So that's gonna be huge for the community. And they're all the way from studio up to 3-bedroom, I believe,
think,
and
you know.
handicap accessible. Like I said, I've seen the conceptuals and I think it's gonna be just a huge asset and improve that whole neighborhood environment with the improvements and I think it's gonna be great.
Yep.
Really great. And it's gonna be permanent affordable to the community. So it'll build up your towards your 10% that you need in the community. I'm not sure where Templeton falls on that.
We're at 7.3 right now.
7.3, so that will add, those 48 units will add quite a
I
bit.
think
to
it'll
that.
bring us up to like 9.6.
That's perfect.
And then the
Princeton is
ones,
About 8.4 right now, and we're working and trying to develop the same thing, so.
great, yep, just get the CPA and that'll help. We can convert some of those other schools
I'm hoping.
or mills. And then he was also asking about the development that's going in across from the auto repair shop on Baldwin Road.
Oh, on Baldenville Road, yeah, I'm not sure about that. I don't really have any information.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be Lily Lane. That's a private developer. That's a over 55 community.
With no affordable restrictions, it's just an age thing.
Age restriction.
Okay,
Yeah, he's
All right.
already got them listed for 200.
so that won't add.
Okay, great.
Manufactured homes.
Yeah.
Slabs.
You're not gonna, I'm understanding you're not gonna own the land, you're gonna rent the land.
Rent the land on the building.
like a trailer park with a fancier trailer.
Similar to the South Gardner development.
Yes.
Yeah.
We used to call it Roses, but.
We got a couple minutes.
Okay, any other projects to discuss? Any new business to come forward?
No, I just the Hooten Park, I mean, the light department stuff, I like to see something next year on that line to see if we can get something going
We
with
should
that.
probably get a meeting and I'll, because there were so many interested parties in that from
Yeah,
the department. Maybe Jessica can remind,
veterans,
you know, because Jackie was involved with that too.
yeah,
I don't know what,
Jackie Prime.
yeah.
because the swings and stuff and that, all that stuff. That's all right, it's not good.
Yeah, we'll get a
The-
meeting
the
together
Houghton
with the
Park,
parks
you know.
people.
In Baldwinville, Otter River,
Yeah, that's all outdated. It's,
yeah,
Um. Last year we had a meeting. It was the old veterans officer.
Yeah,
People from the light department, myself, Adam. The light department paid for a new roofing on the gazebo. And put some other work into it. We talked about redoing the field over, new playground, walking path. And then, I was told the individual I was working on it, she had everything laid out, because she was gonna involve the veterans park up there as well.
yeah, we need to revisit that, so let's
Because we
put
did.
that on the,
Hands it's in now.
Yeah.
because
We'll-
we
we'll have to
voted to
talk
give that money for the surveyor.
we
for
had it all
having to-
surveyed, confirmed the bounds and meets. So we'll put that on the radar to revisit that. Did you have something you wanted to bring up?
Yes, so my new business has to do with open seats. I learned that we have an open assessor seat. in
Yes,
CPC. It used to be Justice Graves. He changed positions. So I spoke to the assessor's office today. And at their next meeting, they're gonna appoint John Brooks.
oh, great.
And, he said he would run it out to the end of his term, which is at some point this year. And then we'll have to do it all again. But he is interested in filling the seat.
Wonderful.
And their meeting is next month in February. We also have an open seat for housing, and so we have Mr. Connor here to ask questions. My question is, are you a voting member on the Templeton Housing Authority? You are not.
I'm an employee,
You're employed.
contract.
So you have 4 out of 5 positions filled. At your next meeting, could you talk to your authority if anybody would like the housing seat?
Yeah, I actually did talk to one of my members. She was a retired director.
Okay,
And she's gonna get back to me. One of her concerns was the time of the meeting, that's all.
okay,
But I'll find out more and we'll talk more before that.
that would be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we have people who work daytime, so we need a night meeting. Right?
Mhm.
I thought we were
Unless you
going
wanna
back,
bring
I
myself.
thought we were going back to 6:30
retire.
after the market. Oh,
Well, we could talk about it. It's at 7 right now. I like 7, but
Okay.
Yeah.
we'll keep it
We
at
did
7
so-
for now.
okay.
Okay, any old business?
I'd like to, before you get too happy,
Don't worry, I'm not that happy.
I'd like to bring up the cupola here at the town hall. I know
Mhm.
it's been on the back burner. And I know people on your board, kind of, some were in favor, some were not, some were questionable. But I'm gonna get a hold of my contractor with some decent weather. I'd like him to give me a price and revisit that. And see if there's something we can do. It's getting so bad, like we're gonna have to do something.
Yeah, and it does look horrible and it does, would look so much better.
Right, so, I will get a estimate on what he thinks I'll fill on the report from the architect. I just think it really got for a lot less than what was originally projected.
Yeah, well, like 60,000 was the original. It was
Yeah,
more than that.
That was,
Okay. Yeah, that people really choked on that. I mean, but nobody I was in disagreement that it should be done, but yeah, thank you. Bring that forward, share an email with me about cost or anything if you want to bring it up and we can bring it to the board next meeting, February
9.
9th, okay. Thank you.
It may post this spring. It all depends on, what the weather here.
Yeah, and so, we just have our timeline for annual town meeting. Otherwise, we're happy to talk things for fall town meeting. That's kind of how we fly, but yeah, because I did happen to notice that not too long ago. It's like, oh yeah, we really should do something with that because
Well, yeah, that was pretty,
that would, yeah, so if we could cut it down to 10% of that. Okay. Anything else anybody want to bring up? All right, so our next meeting will be February 9th at 7 PM.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
second that.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those signify by saying aye.
Uh,
Aye.
I
Aye.
Okay, thank you.